Just a quick one today, friends. I just got done filming a sponge cutting video, and I will have another video that I was going to film tonight, but it's kind of late and I want to wake up early. So we're just gonna do our clay fails. Let's start with the worst one. This was supposed to be, honestly, don't really know. Basically, what I did was, there's Play-Doh in here, and I encased it in plaster, and you can see I layered it, and then I smoothed it out with my finger, but the sides, I couldn't get a good seal on the sides, and overall it's really flat for a plaster crack, because you want the Play-Doh or the clay in the middle to really like ooze out. So I was like, this will just be in the fails. And then next up will be these. These were butterflies. So I had the idea of using molds, silicone molds. They're butterflies, you can kind of tell right here. Well, when removing them from the molds, they kind of lost their shape. And these are Play-Doh too, so I didn't even bother. I used the Play-Doh as a test, and if the Play-Doh didn't work, I didn't even bother wasting clay on it. So those, and then there's this chocolate bar, so you can kind of see the pieces of like a chocolate bar. Also another silicone mold, and basically this one was too thin, and it cracked. So then I put a bunch of Play-Doh, like I kind of glued it together with plaster, and this whole thing is Play-Doh, and it's also covered in plaster. As you see, I attempted to smooth it out, and I was still gonna try to use this for the video until I got plaster here and it dried before I could remove it. And if I try to sand it, it'll ruin the whole thing and possibly crack. So it might be hard under here, or it could be soft. This one's pretty heavy, which when it's heavy, that typically means it's dried and hardened. And these, on the other hand, are really light, but I still don't know if the Play-Doh is soft inside. And then these, I just love the way the pieces sound. Really thin. Really thin pieces of plaster. So, I guess let's start with one of these. Let's try a butterfly. Huh. Surprisingly, the Play-Doh is still really soft in here. The other problem with the butterflies is that they're also really small, so when they crack, you watch. You get like one good crack at it. Ha! One good crack at it. You get one good crack and then that's pretty much it. We're gonna save the best for last. Oh. See, that's just way too thin. Not gonna lie, this old Play-Doh smells kind of good. That's probably not a good thing to breathe in plaster and Play-Doh, but yeah. So the one inside the flat blue one was dry, as you can see. Moment of truth. Well, the Play-Doh inside is still soft. As you can see, I'm still able to smush it and ball it. But when making like plaster or clay cracks, I like to use Play-Doh because it takes way longer for Play-Doh to dry out just because of the moisture content in it. Clay, I know there are some non-drying clays, but those are expensive for a clay cracking video. So I use air dry clay, which is significantly cheaper and easier to find. The reality is not everything works out, but I still was able to finish making like all the plaster cracks within like 3 days. I started on Friday. I didn't work on Saturday or Sunday, so I finished them today, which is Monday. I was able to get them done in like 72 hours, so that's cool. Because usually with clay crackings and plaster crackings, you want to give it like 24 to 48 hours at the max to get like really dry. But after that, you kind of risk your Play-Doh or your air dry clay getting dry on the inside. So when the plaster video comes out, it'll be shown that the chocolate bars are just the flat pieces of plaster, because I didn't want to risk what happened with that big chunky piece happening with the plaster. There is one thick chocolate bar that actually did make it. It's not the prettiest, but it'll be in the video, and I painted it brown, so it's like chocolate, and it's got like a rainbow inside. I much prefer plaster than like nail polish, or I think some people are using floor lacquer too. I know there's a couple other things you could use, but plaster, the working time is just, it's way easier, and also you can kind of manipulate it a bit more with like adding less water so that it hardens faster. It's all a learning process, but I hadn't done a clay cracking video in a while. I was like, oh my gosh, I miss it. Like, that's kind of how I started off my channel, and those are still some of my favorite ASMR videos, is the clay cracking, the plaster crackings. I don't like the long compilations, but I like the ones where they're like really cool shapes and stuff, and there's no talking. Unlike me, excessive talking right now. But yeah, that's it. I will see you guys when I see you guys. There ain't no schedule for this channel. Bye, friends. And look at that. When you do it on something you don't mind throwing away, just roll up the mess. It's like it never happened.